She knocked on the CEO's door and handed him her mother's diary. The rain streaked down the massive glass windows of Halvorsen Tower, the tallest building in the city. Inside, silence reigned on the top floor, except for the soft ticking of a minimalist clock and the scratch of a Montblanc pen on crisp white paper. CEO Dorian Halvorsen sat behind a dark oak desk, signing off on yet another merger, his jaw tense and his silver cufflinks gleaming under the warm light of his office. He was known as a titan, ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. No one interrupted Dorian Halvorsen unless summoned. No one dared. But then came the knock. 3 soft taps. Not the urgent kind of a panicked assistant, not the firm knock of a board member. It was almost hesitant. Dorian didn't look up at first, assuming it would be a secretary. But when the knock came again, this time with an odd stillness behind it, he lifted his gaze. The door opened just enough to reveal a child. Drenched from the rain, wearing a faded yellow raincoat with one button missing, stood a little girl who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Her hair clung to her cheeks in wet curls, and in her small hands she clutched a worn, leather-bound book. Her shoes squeaked as she stepped inside the office silently, as if she had done this in a dream before. "Sir," she said softly, her voice steady despite her fragile frame. "This belonged to my mom." Dorian blinked. He stood slowly, unsure if this was real. The girl walked to his desk, placed the old diary gently on the polished surface, and then looked up at him with wide, searching eyes. "She died last week," she said, and her lower lip trembled. "She told me, if anything happened, I should give this to you." He didn't move, couldn't. His hand twitched near the diary, but didn't touch it yet. Who are you?" he finally asked. She looked at the nameplate on his desk. "You're Mr. Halvorsen, right?" she said. "My name is Lily." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Something about her eyes, deep brown, familiar, fierce, pulled at a memory he had buried long ago. Slowly, his fingers touched the cover of the diary. The leather was cracked, soft from years of use. He flipped open the first page. There, in elegant handwriting, was a name he hadn't heard in more than a decade. Elena Marlowe. His heart skipped. And below it, the first line, October 12th. "I never told Dorian I was pregnant." His breath caught in his throat. Dorian's fingers tightened on the edges of the diary, his knuckles whitening. He could barely read the words through the sudden blur in his vision. The office, the rain, the ticking clock, all of it fell away as that sentence echoed in his head. "I never told Dorian I was pregnant. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be." Elena was gone. She had disappeared from his life 11 years ago without explanation, without a word, without closure. And now a child stood before him, carrying the weight of a secret buried in ink. He looked up at the girl again. Lily. She didn't fidget. She didn't cry. She simply waited like someone who had accepted the truth of loss too early, too quietly. "How old are you?" he asked, his voice lower than usual, unsteady. 10, she replied. Almost 11 in December. The timeline aligned too neatly. Dorian's mind raced through the dates, the years, the endless questions. "Where have you been living?" he asked. "With my aunt. Mom got sick and she was writing in this a lot. Said I should bring it to you if something happened. She said it would explain everything." Lily's eyes darted toward the diary. "I didn't read it. I wanted to, but she said it was for you." He glanced down again. The next line, written in a shakier hand, read, "He wouldn't have wanted this life, not the way it unfolded. I kept Lily safe. That's all that mattered." His throat tightened. Dorian sank into his chair slowly, the diary trembling in his hands. "Your mother," he began, each word heavy, "was very important to me. I didn't know. I swear, Lily. I didn't know about you." Lily nodded once. "I believe you. Mom never said bad things about you. She just said it was complicated and that you were someone who wouldn't forgive easily." He blinked. The room was too quiet now. The storm outside had softened to a drizzle, as if the world was holding its breath. "Would you sit for a moment?" he asked. She nodded and climbed into the plush chair across from him. Her feet dangled, not quite touching the floor. Her raincoat dripped quietly on the expensive carpet. He didn't care. Turning another page, he scanned more entries. There were hospital appointments, descriptions of cravings, ultrasounds, little sketches of baby clothes and names circled in pink pen. And all of it, without him. She had gone through it all alone. "I want to know her," Lily said suddenly. "The parts I didn't get to see. You knew her before. Can you tell me?" Dorian closed the book slowly. His voice, when it came, was rough. "Yes, I can tell you everything." But before he could begin, a memory flashed. Eleanor standing in the doorway of his old apartment, eyes red from crying, saying, "I have to go. Don't follow me." And then, she was gone. Why had she left? Why hadn't she told him? Dorian leaned back, his mind a whirlwind of memories and questions. The leather diary rested on the desk between them like a fragile bridge to a life he never got to live. His eyes moved from the diary to the little girl in front of him. Lily was watching him, not with fear, but with cautious curiosity, as if she was studying him, trying to decide whether he was the man her mother had once loved, or the stranger who had been absent her entire life. "Eleanor and I," he started, then paused. His voice cracked in a way that surprised even him. "We met in college. She was studying literature. I was already building my first startup. She hated the corporate world, thought it was soul-crushing." He smiled faintly. "She used to make fun of my suits." Lily smiled too, just a little. "She had this laugh," he continued, his eyes going distant. "It wasn't loud, but it stayed with you. She was the kind of person who could read a poem and make you cry just by the way she said the words." Lily nodded. "She read to me a lot." His throat tightened again. He looked down at the diary, then back up. "Why did she never come to me? Why didn't she tell me?" Lily shrugged slightly. "I asked her that, once. She just said, 'Sometimes, love has to disappear to protect what matters most.'" He exhaled slowly, as if the wind had been knocked from him. That sounded like Elena. Cryptic, tender, tragic. He turned another page. There was a dried flower pressed between the sheets, a violet. The ink beneath it was faded, but the words were still legible. "Today I saw him in the newspaper. Dorian. He looks different, harder, older. I wonder if he'd recognize me if I walked past him on the street." He swallowed hard. "She saw me, and I didn't see her." Lily said nothing, but her eyes shone with sympathy far beyond her years. "I want to take care of you," he said suddenly, the decision coming from someplace deep, someplace untouched for years. "If that's something you'd be open to. I know I've missed so much. Too much. But I'd like to know you, Lily, if you'll let me." She tilted her head. "You don't even know if I'm really your daughter." The question hung in the air, gentle but cutting. He nodded slowly. "You're right, but I don't need a test to know that. I see her in you, and something in me already knows." Her lips pressed together, uncertain. Just then the door opened. Dorian's assistant stood there, pale. "Mr. Halverson, sorry, but—" Behind her a man pushed forward, middle-aged, with stormy eyes and a grim expression. "Where is she?" he demanded. Lily's face went white. "Uncle Mark?" Dorian stood instinctively. "Who are you?" Mark's voice was ice. "I'm the man who's raised her, and she's coming with me." The tension in the room thickened instantly, the atmosphere crackling like the remnants of a storm that had never truly passed. Mark stepped fully into the office now, his coat still damp from the rain, his jaw tight with something darker than worry, something like resentment. Lily shifted in her seat, shrinking slightly, her fingers clutching the armrest. Dorian stepped protectively in front of her, his voice calm but steely. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Dorian Halverson." Mark sneered. "I know exactly who you are. Elena's mistake. The man who vanished from her life and left her to raise a child on her own. Dorian's jaw clenched. I didn't know. She never told me. Convenient, Mark shot back. Now she's dead, and suddenly you're ready to play Father of the Year. Lily flinched. Don't speak like that in front of her, Dorian warned, lowering his voice. Mark ignored him, stepping closer. Lily is under my care now. Elena named me as her guardian in her will. I came here because she went missing from school. Imagine my surprise when I learned she was here with you. I gave them your office number, Lily whispered, in case anything ever happened. Mark turned toward her, his expression softening for just a second. Sweetheart, I get that you're confused, I do, but this man... I'm not confused, Lily said, voice trembling. You're not my dad. That silenced them both. Dorian turned to her slowly. Her chin was lifted, but her eyes glistened. Mom said she made choices to protect me, but she also said I had the right to find out the truth and I wanted to see him. Mark's face was unreadable. He looked at Dorian. You really think you can walk in now and pretend like the past didn't happen? That there won't be consequences? I'm not pretending anything, Dorian said. I'm owning the past finally. I don't want to take Lily away. I want to be part of her life, if she'll have me. Mark looked from Lily to Dorian, torn between anger and exhaustion. She's a child, not a project, and Elena didn't want you involved. That was clear. Dorian's fingers curled into fists at his sides. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she didn't trust me. But I've changed. I'm not the same man she left. Too little, too late. Lily stood now, stepping between them. Stop it. Both of you. Her voice rang out clear and sharp. The rain had finally stopped. Outside, sunlight began to pierce through the clouds, casting a faint golden hue across the office. I want time, she said, to know who he is. That's what Mum wanted too, even if she was afraid to say it. She left me the diary for a reason. Mark exhaled sharply, shaking his head. This isn't over, Dorian. No, Dorian replied, steady. It's just beginning. And as Mark stormed out, Lily turned back to Dorian, her eyes filled with something that looked a lot like hope. But there on the edge of the desk, a folded letter had slipped from between the diary pages. Unopened, sealed in Elena's handwriting, addressed to Dorian. When you're ready. Dorian stared at the letter as if it might vanish. The edges were slightly yellowed, the seal still intact, untouched by time, by tears, by second thoughts. His name was written in Elena's unmistakable handwriting, the loops of her letters still as graceful as he remembered. He reached for it slowly, reverently, as if he were holding a fragment of her soul. Lily said nothing, only watched him with wide, waiting eyes. His fingers trembled as he broke the seal and unfolded the single sheet inside. Dorian, if you're reading this, then I've failed at keeping the past where I buried it. I always knew I couldn't outrun it forever. I suppose I hoped you would never need to know. But if Lily found you, then it means she's searching for a truth I was too much of a coward to give. You deserved to know her. You deserved to know me. But I was scared. You were building your empire, and I was already falling apart. The truth felt like a weight I couldn't ask you to carry. Dorian's breath hitched. He closed his eyes, her voice coming alive in the silence as though she were whispering in the room. I watched from afar. Once I saw you crossing the street near the old bookstore we loved. You looked tired, hardened, but still you. I wanted to run to you, but I had Lily with me and I told her it was time to go. She didn't know who you were. I didn't let her. I'm sorry, Dorian. Not because I stopped loving you, I never did, but because I didn't trust you enough to love us both. He opened his eyes, blinking back the sting. If you are reading this, please, be kind to her. She's the best of both of us. She's brave, smarter than I ever was, fierce like you, soft like me. Let her choose. Don't force your way in. Just show her who you really are. She'll see it, I promise. Goodbye, my love. Elena. He folded the letter with painstaking care and pressed it to his chest. A silence settled over them, heavy and sacred. Lily was still standing, arms at her sides. What did she say? He met her gaze, voice barely a whisper. That she loved you. And that she wanted me to let you choose. Lily nodded slowly. Then I want to stay, at least for a while. He tried to smile, but it faltered. I'd like that. More than you know. Just then, his office phone lit up with an incoming call. His assistant's voice buzzed through. Mr. Halverson, there's someone here. She says she's Elena's mother. Dorian froze. Lily turned toward him, startled. She said she has something to tell you. Something about why Elena really left. The door opened slowly, and in stepped a woman wrapped in a deep burgundy shawl. Her silver hair tied back neatly, her face a map of time and sorrow. She moved with the grace of someone used to holding secrets and the weight of someone tired of carrying them. Dorian rose to his feet instinctively, unsure whether to brace himself or bow. Lily gasped softly. "Grandma?" The woman smiled faintly. "Hello, sweetheart." Dorian studied her face. There was something of Elena in her, the shape of her cheekbones, the same careful way she looked at people, as though trying to read the story beneath their skin. "I'm Margaret," she said, her voice low but steady. "Elena's mother." "I'm Dorian Halverson," he said, "though I suspect you already know that." She nodded. "I do." Lily looked between them, her eyes wide. "You didn't come to the funeral." Margaret winced, her eyes darkening. "I couldn't. I was ashamed and afraid." "But I've been watching too, Lily, just from farther away than I should have." Dorian motioned for her to sit. She declined with a small shake of her head. "I won't stay long, but I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago." He felt his heart begin to pound again, the kind of pulse that only comes when the ground under your memories starts to shift. "Elena didn't leave you on her own, Dorian. She was made to leave." He froze. "What?" "I told her to," Margaret said, voice breaking. "No, I begged her to, forced her to, if I'm honest. I saw the life you were building, the speed of it, the people you were surrounded by. I didn't believe it was a world that could ever be kind to a child, or to someone as gentle as my daughter." His hands clenched the edge of the desk. "You made her disappear from my life." "She wanted to tell you," Margaret whispered. "She wrote letters. She tried. But I convinced her it was better this way. I told her you'd resent her, that you'd see her and Lily as burdens." Lily stepped back, her expression shifting into something raw and confused. "You lied to her?" Margaret's eyes brimmed with tears. "I thought I was protecting her. I thought I was doing the right thing." Dorian stood, a storm beginning to build behind his gaze. "You stole 10 years from me, from us." "I know," Margaret said quietly, "and I'll carry that for the rest of my life." She reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of yellowed envelopes, each sealed, each labeled with a date. She kept writing, even after she stopped trying to send them. "They're all for you." Lily reached for them slowly. Her hands shook. Margaret looked at her granddaughter one last time. "You deserved better, both of you. I'm sorry." Then she turned and walked out, the echo of her footsteps swallowed by silence. The stack of letters felt heavier than anything Dorian had ever held. Years of silence, grief, and unsaid words bound in thin paper and delicate handwriting. He laid them out carefully on the desk, the dates forming a quiet timeline: 2014, 2015, 2016, all the way to just a few months before Elena's death. Each envelope was a snapshot of a year he'd lived without knowing her truth. Lily stood beside him now, her eyes moving over the dates with an expression far too solemn for a 10-year-old. "She never stopped thinking about you," she said softly. Dorian nodded, swallowing hard. "And she never stopped loving me. That's what hurts the most." He picked up the first envelope and opened it with slow, deliberate fingers. The paper crackled slightly as he unfolded it. "Dear Dorian, it's been 2 months since I left, and I still dream about the sound of your voice. You probably hate me, you should, but I need you to know that it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because I didn't know how to stay, not with the world you were building. I didn't think I could survive in it, and I didn't think our baby could either." Dorian's breath caught. She's growing inside me now, tiny but strong. I feel her when I sleep, when I'm alone, and I whisper your name to her, even though she'll never meet you. I wish things were different. I wish I were braver." He folded the letter slowly and placed it beside the diary. Lily's voice trembled. "Can I read some of them too?" Dorian looked at her. "They're yours as much as they are mine." She wrote them for us. They spent the next hour in silence, reading. Some letters were filled with small, tender updates. Lily's first steps, her first tooth, the nights Eleanor cried holding her, and wondering what kind of father Dorian might have been. Others were heavy with regret, with questions that would never be answered, with apologies written 100 different ways. By the time they reached the final letter, Dorian felt hollowed out and reborn at the same time. "Dear Dorian, I saw you on television today. You were speaking at a charity gala, smiling like you used to. For the first time, I believed maybe there was a version of the world where we could have made it work. But I was too far gone, too tired. I know my time is running out. If Lily finds you, please forgive me. She's all the good I had left." Dorian pressed the letter to his lips, then closed his eyes. When he opened them, Lily was watching him with quiet tears running down her cheeks. "Do you think she's proud of me?" He knelt beside her, his voice a whisper. "I think she was proud every single day." Outside the window, the sun was setting, casting gold across the city, a rare moment of peace. But then, his assistant appeared again, pale and breathless. "Sir, there's someone else here. He says he knew Elena too. He says he has proof that you weren't the only man she wrote to." Dorian stood slowly, the words echoing like a thunderclap in the quiet aftermath of everything he had just read. Proof that you weren't the only man she wrote to. The idea struck deep, not because he doubted Elena's love, but because it introduced a shadow into the fragile light they had just uncovered. Lily looked up at him, confused and instinctively reaching for his hand. "Should I leave?" she asked. "No," Dorian said more firmly than he meant to. "Stay. Whatever this is, we face it together." The office door opened again, and in walked a man in his late 40s dressed in a charcoal coat, with eyes that looked both tired and alert, the kind of eyes that had seen things and never quite stopped looking. He carried a slim black folder under one arm and a worn photo in the other. He gave a tight nod to Dorian. "Mr. Halverson, my name is Julian Ward." "I don't know you," Dorian replied, voice hardening. "No, but I knew Elena. We worked together a long time ago. She was a researcher on one of my non-profit projects in Africa." Dorian narrowed his eyes. "That was before she and I met." Julian shook his head slowly. "It overlapped. She was already pregnant when she left my program, and she didn't tell anyone who the father was. She only ever said it was complicated." Lily's fingers tightened around Dorian's. Julian stepped forward, placing the photo on the desk. It was of Elena, younger, glowing, a hand over her stomach. Next to her was Julian, smiling. "She trusted me. When she was sick, she asked me to keep something in case anything happened to her. She said you might come looking, or the girl might." He opened the black folder and pulled out another letter, this one sealed in a different envelope, addressed not to Dorian, but to Julian Ward. Dorian's heart thudded painfully. Julian continued, "I didn't read it until she passed. But when I did, I realized something. She loved you, always did. But she was also scared you'd come back too late. So she wrote this, and gave me something else too." From the folder he pulled a DNA test, unsigned, but with names typed clearly. Dorian Halverson, Lily Marlowe. Lily blinked. "That's my name?" Julian nodded. "Your mother filed this, quietly. She never sent it in. But she wanted the choice to be yours, Lily, whether to know or not, whether to believe or not." Dorian reached for the document, numb. Julian looked at him. "I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here because I promised Elena I would be." Lily stepped forward. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. "Of course," Julian replied. "Did she ever talk about me like the way a mom would?" Julian's expression softened. Every day. You were her beginning, middle, and end. But Dorian's eyes were locked on the DNA form, and a sudden realization hit him. Something was off. The date on the form. It was from before Eleanor left. Dorian stared at the date on the document, circled in faint blue ink, March 18, 2014, a full month before Eleanor had disappeared from his life. His mind reeled, the timeline twisting inside him like a maze. If she had ordered a DNA test before she vanished, that meant she had already decided to question or confirm what she never told him. But why? He looked up slowly. Why would she request a paternity test before she left? If she never intended to tell me, why go through with this? Julian's expression grew more guarded. That's not something she ever told me, but she had doubts, not about who the father was, about whether you would want to be one. I would have, Dorian said instantly, almost too loudly. I would have, if she had told me. Julian's gaze didn't falter. I believe you. But Elena lived in fear, not of you, of your world. She said it was built on deals and deadlines, and that love didn't survive in boardrooms. Lily listened in silence, her small hand still wrapped around Dorian's. She hadn't spoken since the form appeared. Julian handed her the unopened letter. This is for you from your mum, written a few weeks before she died. She asked me not to deliver it unless I thought you were ready. Lily took the envelope with trembling fingers. Her name was written on the front, Lily Rose Marlowe Halverson. She whispered the full name aloud, tasting it for the first time. Dorian turned to her. Do you want to read it now or later? She hesitated, then clutched the letter to her chest. Later, when it's quiet. Julian stepped back, folding the folder under his arm again. There's one more thing, he said, and I hesitated to bring it, but I think you should see it. He pulled a small digital recorder from his coat pocket. This was the last message Elena left for me, a voice note. She didn't want it played unless you were all together. He placed the device gently on the desk. Dorian looked at it like it might detonate. Lily glanced at him. Do you want to hear her voice again? I don't know if I can, he admitted. But Lily reached forward and pressed the play button. A soft crackle and then Elena's voice. Warm, tired, strong. If this is being played, then you're with them. Dorian. Lily. I don't know how or why or when, but I'm glad. If I couldn't give you a perfect family, maybe this moment, right now, is enough. I was afraid of many things, but never of you. Dorian, I wanted to tell you the truth 1,000 times. I just didn't know how to ask for forgiveness and love at the same time. Her voice broke. Take care of each other. That's all I ever wanted. Silence followed. Lily wiped her eyes quietly. Dorian stared at the device, jaw clenched. Julian nodded once. I'll leave you now. As the door closed behind him, Dorian turned to Lily. Whatever happens next, we face it together. But before she could reply, the office phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't a visitor. It was his lawyer, calling about Elena's will, and an unexpected clause she had added just days before her death. Dorian hesitated before answering the call, his instincts warring between dread and curiosity. He pressed the speaker button, and the line crackled to life. Mr. Halvorsen, came the crisp voice of his longtime attorney, Gregory Mills. Yes, Dorian replied. What is it? I just came from probate court. Elena Marlowe's will was finalized and officially entered into record. There's a clause we hadn't discussed before. It was added in a handwritten codicil dated 5 days before her passing. Dorian's brow furrowed. What kind of clause? Gregory continued. She left instructions regarding Lily's guardianship, temporary and conditional. She named her brother Mark as interim guardian, but only under one condition, that if you, Dorian Halvorsen, were ever made aware of Lily's existence and expressed a desire to be part of her life, then guardianship would revert to you, pending Lily's consent. Dorian sat down heavily. She named me. She did, Gregory confirmed. She wrote, and I quote, "If he comes back, if he claims her with the heart I remember, then she belongs with him, but only if she chooses it." Lily looked up at him, stunned. "She knew you'd find me." "She hoped," Dorian said softly. "There's more," Gregory added. "Elena left a sealed letter with the court, addressed to Lily. The judge gave me permission to forward it directly to your office." As if on cue, Dorian's assistant knocked and entered, carrying an envelope with the court seal. Dorian took it gently and placed it in Lily's hands. Lily held it to her chest, her eyes wide. "Why didn't she just tell you everything while she was alive?" Dorian knelt in front of her. "Maybe she didn't think she had the right, or maybe she thought we needed to find our way back to each other ourselves." Lily didn't speak. She unfolded the envelope and began to read silently, lips moving faintly. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't cry. Not this time. Finally, she looked up at him, her voice quiet but clear. "She said I should decide where I belong. She said she trusted me to know." Dorian swallowed. "Then do you?" Lily studied him for a long, still moment. "You're not what I expected. I don't know what I am," he admitted. "But I know what I want to be, if you'll let me." She gave the smallest smile. "I think she always knew we'd end up here, that somehow, even after everything, we'd find each other." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. As they sat together in the stillness of the office, the rain began again, soft, steady, like a blessing this time instead of a storm. But then Lily turned the envelope over and found something tucked inside the flap. A photo of Elena, holding baby Lily, and standing beside her in the shadows, Dorian. A candid photo he didn't remember ever being taken, and on the back, in Elena's handwriting, "She's always been ours, even when we didn't know it." The photo trembled slightly in Dorian's hands. He stared at it, disoriented, as if the image itself were lying, but it wasn't. There he was, unmistakably younger, hair longer, jaw less defined, standing beside Elena, one hand hovering near her shoulder. She was holding a newborn wrapped in a soft pink blanket, her face alight with quiet joy. It looked like a snapshot from another life, a life he didn't remember living. He turned it over again to reread the words. "She's always been ours, even when we didn't know it." Lily tilted her head. "You don't remember that picture?" "No," Dorian said slowly. "I don't. I didn't even know it existed. That day, it's a blank to me." Lily frowned. "Maybe you forgot because it hurt too much." The words cut deeper than he expected. He looked back at the photo, trying to remember anything. The clothes he wore, the room behind them, even a sound. But there was nothing. Just static in his mind, like someone had erased a single day with surgical precision. Suddenly a new thought crept in, unwelcome but persistent. What if she brought me to see you? Just once," he said slowly, voice tightening. "What if she gave me a chance and I forgot?" Lily's eyes widened. "Why would you forget something like that?" He shook his head. "I don't know." Then, almost in a trance, he crossed the room to a locked drawer in the corner cabinet. He hadn't opened it in years. It held personal items, things from before the boardroom and the private jets, things that belonged to the man he used to be. He pulled out a slim leather box and opened it. Inside were old journals, moleskin notebooks, filled with messy, passionate handwriting from a younger, more restless Dorian. He flipped through the pages rapidly, hoping for something, a clue, a line, anything. Halfway through one of the older notebooks, he stopped. March 25th, 2014. Saw her again today. Just for a moment. She was holding something, maybe a baby? I don't know. It's all a blur. I think I was drunk. Or maybe dreaming. I don't remember what I said to her. I hope it wasn't cruel. I hope I didn't scare her away. His breath hitched. He looked up at Lily, who had come closer to read over his shoulder. You did see me, she whispered. I think I did, Dorian said, stunned. I think I met you, and I was too broken to remember it. Guilt washed over him, sharp and cold. I thought she left without warning, but maybe I pushed her away that day and didn't even realize it. Lily nodded solemnly. Mom said you used to get lost in your own world. Maybe that day, you got so lost you forgot us. Dorian closed the journal slowly, the weight of that realization sinking in. But then, Lily said something that stopped his heart. Do you think maybe there are more pictures somewhere we haven't looked? Dorian's eyes darted to the desk, then to the bookshelves, and finally to the tall filing cabinet in the corner of the office that hadn't been touched in nearly a decade. It was where he kept everything from the earliest days, before the IPOs, before the headlines, before the masks he wore for investors and reporters, back when he still believed love could survive the chaos of ambition. He stood and crossed the room, heart pounding. The cabinet gave a low creak as he opened the bottom drawer. Inside were boxes labeled with years, 2013, 2014, 2015. He reached for the one marked 2014, set it gently on the floor, and opened the lid. Lily knelt beside him. Inside were photos, receipts, scraps of old paper, a coffee sleeve from a bookstore cafe, a ticket stub to a concert he didn't remember attending. And then, tucked between two envelopes, a small bundle of Polaroids wrapped in a rubber band. He pulled them out slowly. The first photo was of a balcony view, the second, a blurry city street. Then, his hand froze. Elena, standing in the soft light of a bedroom window, cradling Lily. She was looking directly into the camera, her eyes full of something he now recognized too late. Fear and love tangled together. He flipped to the next one. Elena again, only this time she wasn't alone. He was beside her, his arms around her shoulders, his expression dazed, tired, but not unhappy. It was him. He handed it to Lily. Was that here? She asked, pointing at the window behind them in the picture. Dorian studied it. No, that was my old apartment. He sat back, stunned. She came back. At least once, he said aloud. She brought you to me, and I let you both walk away. Lily looked at the photo with quiet reverence. Maybe she was giving you one more chance. But you weren't ready. The words hit him like a blade, sharp but not cruel, honest. He nodded slowly. No, I wasn't. He picked up the rest of the stack. Some were blurry, some poorly lit, but each one painted a picture of a fleeting connection, a ghost of a family that might have been. Then at the bottom of the stack, they found a photo of Lily at maybe 3 years old, smiling on a park bench, ice cream smeared across her cheek. Dorian touched it gently. She looked like this when I turned 30. I remember that birthday. I spent it alone, had no idea this even existed. Lily turned the photo over. There was writing on the back. We saw you that day. You didn't see us. He closed his eyes. How many times did I miss her? He whispered. Lily answered with a softness that broke him. Maybe she wasn't asking you to remember, Dad. Maybe she was asking you to try again. The word hit Dorian like a thunderclap. Dad. It came out of Lily's mouth without hesitation, without apology. Not Mr. Halverson, not Dorian, not even Sir. Just Dad. The sound of it cracked something open in him that he hadn't realized was still buried. His hands trembled where they rested on the edge of the photo box. Lily didn't seem to notice the storm she'd triggered. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. He looked at her, really looked at her. The curve of her jaw, the fire in her eyes, the patience she carried like armor, all pieces of Elena, all echoes of the woman he had loved and lost without ever truly saying goodbye. You called me, he started, his voice catching. She shrugged, a small smile tugging at her mouth. Is that okay? He laughed softly, a disbelieving kind of sound. It's more than okay. The moment stretched, warm and fragile. Then Lily stood, brushing off her knees. So, she said, what happens now? Dorian didn't answer right away. He closed the box of memories and set it aside. Now, we figure out what this looks like. You and me. No pressure, no expectations, just the truth. She nodded. I want that. Do you want to stay here tonight? He asked. I have a guest room and we could order in pizza or Chinese. Her eyes lit up. You have cartoons. I can buy cartoons, he said, smiling for the first time in what felt like years. She giggled, then grew serious again. Uncle Mark is going to be really mad. Dorian's smile faded. I know. He loves me, she added. But sometimes he talks like he owns me. I'm going to talk to him, Dorian said firmly. You won't be in the middle of it. Just then, his phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. Uncle Mark is in the lobby, refuses to leave, says he's filing for full custody. Police may be called. Dorian sighed. Of course he is. Lily's smile dropped. Are they going to make me leave? No, Dorian said, standing. Not tonight, not ever again, without your say. He led her gently toward the guest suite on the upper floor of his penthouse office, a space rarely used, but now suddenly essential. As she explored the room wide-eyed, Dorian turned back toward the office window. The city lights blinked below, endless and cold. He picked up his phone and dialed Mark's number. When the man answered, Dorian didn't hesitate. She chose to stay. There was silence. Then Mark's voice, low, tense, and shaking. You're making a mistake. You don't know what you're stepping into. Dorian's reply was like steel. No, Mark. I'm finally stepping out of the lie. Dorian hung up the call before Mark could reply. He didn't need threats or justifications, or the sharp edge of guilt that the man always knew how to wield. For the first time in years, he felt grounded. Not because everything was okay when it wasn't, but because he was finally facing the truth with both eyes open. He turned back toward the guest suite. Through the open doorway, he saw Lily curled on the edge of the bed, flipping through the diary again. She looked small but not fragile, quiet but not afraid. There was something unshakable in her, and he wondered how much of that had come from Elena, and how much had come from enduring too much too soon. Dorian walked in slowly. Do you want anything, blanket, snack? She shook her head. I'm okay. He sat on the edge of a nearby chair, unsure whether to stay or leave. Lily spoke without looking up. He's not a bad man, Uncle Mark. I know. But he was mad at Mom. A lot. About you. He said she romanticized everything. Said she was selfish for hiding me. Dorian exhaled. She was scared. Lily nodded. She told me once that love and fear are the same sometimes, that they both make you do crazy things. She was right. They sat in silence for a while. Then Lily asked, What were you like before all this? He tilted his head. You mean before I became a corporate tyrant with 3 assistants and no soul? She smiled, but her eyes were serious. Yeah, before. He thought for a long moment. I used to write poetry, bad poetry. I played piano, not well. I dreamed about building something real, not just a company, a life. I think I was softer. Lily closed the diary. Maybe you can still be that. Maybe, he said quietly, if you help me. She looked at him. Okay. He stood, pausing in the doorway. If you need anything, I'll be right across the hall. Lily nodded and whispered, Good night, Dad. He froze, then smiled. Good night, Lily. Later that night, after making sure Lily was asleep, Dorian poured himself a glass of water and sat alone at his desk. The city glittered outside, indifferent and vast. He opened the diary again, flipped to a page marked with a ribbon. It was a list. 12 things I hope for Lily. That she laughs like her father. That she never feels like someone's second choice. That she knows how to say no. That she learns the truth, even if it hurts. That she finds him if he's ready. That she forgives me. That she doesn't need to be brave all the time. That she sees the stars and thinks of me. That she falls in love, slowly. That she writes her own story. That she's safe. That she's never alone. Dorian closed the book, eyes full, But before he could stand, his email pinged. Subject: urgent. Personal claim against guardianship of Lily Marlowe. It was from Mark's lawyer, and attached was a court summons. Dorian stared at the email, his pulse thudding like war drums in his ears. The subject line was clear, the attachment undeniable. Mark had wasted no time. Hey, formal guardianship challenge, filed in family court, citing instability, emotional manipulation, and potential undue influence over a minor. The kind of legal strike meant to intimidate and designed to destroy character before it even reached a courtroom. He downloaded the PDF and scanned the first page. It was filled with legal jargon, but the message was simple. Mark was claiming Dorian had no legal right to keep Lily. That Elena had appointed him, Mark, as guardian, and that allowing Lily to stay with Dorian was not in her best interests. Dorian felt bile rise in his throat. Not in her best interests. What did Mark know of Lily's needs, of her grief, her fire, her silence and her strength? His hand curled into a fist on the edge of the desk. Then gently, a voice behind him. Is it about me? He turned. Lily stood in the doorway in oversized pajamas, her hair tousled, eyes sleepy but sharp. She'd seen the email. Maybe not the details, but enough. Dorian softened. It's nothing you need to worry about tonight. I'm not a baby, she said. You promised. No more lies. He closed the laptop slowly. Mark filed to take you back. Legally. He's trying to make it look like I'm not fit to raise you. Lily didn't react the way he expected. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She walked to the desk and climbed into the chair across from him, small but determined. What happens now? Dorian exhaled. We go to court. We explain the truth, the will, the diary, the letters, and we ask the judge to let you decide. She nodded once. Okay. That doesn't scare you, he asked. It does, she admitted, but not as much as going back to a place where no one listens. Dorian reached across the desk and took her hand. We're going to fight this. Together. Lily squeezed his fingers. Mom would have wanted that. He nodded. She would have. Suddenly a memory surfaced. Eleanor, years ago, standing on a rainy street, looking back at him one last time before vanishing into a cab. He hadn't understood it then. He hadn't fought for her. But now, he would fight for what she left behind. The next morning, they sat side by side in his driverless car, headed for the courthouse. Lily held a small velvet pouch in her lap. What's that? He asked. She opened it slowly, revealing a pendant, a locket. Inside, a tiny photo of Elena holding her as a baby. On the other side, a space left blank. I want to put a photo of you there, she said. After we win. He blinked hard. We will. But as they stepped out onto the courthouse steps, the cameras were already waiting, and beside them Mark stood grim-faced with his legal team, and a woman Dorian recognized instantly, Mark's lawyer, Elena's estranged sister. Dorian's breath caught in his chest. The woman standing beside Mark was tall, with sharp eyes and a colder presence than the early morning wind sweeping the courthouse steps. Her hair was pulled tight into a severe bun, and her expression bore no trace of warmth, just calculation. And beneath that calculation, something deeper, something old, resentment. Lily's hand gripped his. Dorian whispered, That's her aunt, Elena's sister. Lily blinked up at him. Aunt Rachel? He nodded. I met her once, a long time ago. Rachel stepped forward. Nice of you to show up, Dorian. So the performance begins. Dorian kept his tone level. I'm here for Lily, not for a show. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You mean the child you abandoned before she could even walk? Lily's voice cut in, clear and small but piercing. He didn't know I existed. Mom told me. You don't get to lie about that. Rachel's lips twitched, not with guilt, but irritation. You've been here 2 days and already talking like his lawyer. Dorian stepped slightly in front of Lily. This isn't the place. No, Rachel said coldly, but the courtroom will be, and I assure you, Mr. Halverson, the law is not on your side. Before he could respond, A bailiff appeared at the courthouse door, calling their names. Parties for the guardianship hearing of Marlowe versus Halverson, courtroom 6. Inside, the room was dimly lit and almost empty, save for the judge and a single clerk. The walls were lined with books that looked older than the city itself. Dorian sat beside his lawyer, Lily between them. Across the aisle, Mark and Rachel whispered furiously with their own legal team. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with deep-set eyes, looked over the case file. "I understand this is a highly emotional matter," she began, "but my job is to protect the best interests of the child. I will review testimony, written evidence, and direct statements before making a temporary ruling." Mark stood first. "Your Honor, Elena named me legal guardian in her will. I've raised Lily since she was a toddler. Mr. Halverson hasn't been in her life and only appeared after Elena's death." Rachel added, "And we have concerns about his motives and his fitness to parent a grieving child who needs stability, not emotional theatrics." Dorian stood slowly. "Your Honor, I didn't know I had a daughter until Lily walked into my office with a diary and a letter from her mother. I've spent every moment since trying to understand what I missed and how I can earn the right to be in her life." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And do you believe 2 days is enough to make that determination?" Lily stood before Dorian could stop her. "Your Honor, I know who I want to live with." The room went still. "I know who listens to me, and it's not them." The judge looked at her gently. "You're very brave, but I'll need to hear more. And I'll need to understand the full truth, not just what's happened since Elena's passing, but what happened before." Dorian's lawyer stood. "Then, we'll begin with this." He handed over the diary, and the judge's eyes narrowed as she read the first line aloud. "I never told Dorian I was pregnant." The courtroom hushed as the judge read those words aloud. Dorian could feel the tension in the room sharpen, not just from Mark and Rachel, but from the clerk, the bailiff, even the stillness of the air itself. The truth was now spoken, not just written, and truth had weight. The judge adjusted her glasses and looked down at the diary, flipping through a few pages slowly. "This appears to be a deeply personal record. Verified handwriting." "Yes, Your Honor," Dorian's lawyer replied. "We submitted an affidavit from a forensic document examiner." "It is, without question, Elena Marlowe's." The judge nodded. "Continue." Dorian's lawyer stepped forward. "The diary outlines not only Elena's emotional state, but also her reasoning for keeping Lily a secret, influenced in part by external pressures from family members, specifically Ms. Rachel Marlowe." Rachel stood abruptly. "Objection. This is unverified conjecture." "Not conjecture," the lawyer countered. "Your name appears on multiple occasions in the diary, including entries referencing psychological pressure and guilt surrounding Elena's relationship with Mr. Halverson." The judge raised her hand. "I'll allow it for now, but tread carefully." Mark leaned toward Rachel, hissing something under his breath. Lily glanced at Dorian, whispering, "She was always mean to Mom, even when I was little." Dorian whispered back, "Then we tell the truth, all of it." Rachel's lawyer spoke next, attempting to redirect the court's attention. "Your Honor, none of this changes the legal standing of Elena's original will. Mark Marlowe has been this child's guardian for years. Mr. Halverson is a stranger, no matter what emotional claims he now makes." But the judge didn't look convinced. She turned back to Dorian. "Mr. Halverson, did you ever receive any communication from Ms. Marlowe during her pregnancy or after the child's birth?" "No," he said clearly. "Not a word, until Lily came to my office last week." "And how did you respond?" He glanced at Lily. "I opened the diary, I listened, and I promised her I wouldn't walk away." The judge turned to Lily. "And what do you want, child?" Lily stepped forward again, voice small but firm. "I want to stay with my dad, I know him now, and I want to keep knowing him. That's what Mom wanted too." The judge leaned back in her chair. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, "This court will take a recess. I will review the documents and reconvene in 1 hour." As she rose and exited, the room remained still. Rachel rounded on Dorian the moment the judge was gone. You think a few teary pages make you a father? Dorian stood slowly, his voice low. No, but they make me human. Something you forgot how to be a long time ago. Rachel's face turned to ice, but Lily stepped in front of her father, chin lifted, eyes unwavering. You lost her a long time ago, she said. You don't get to lose me too. Rachel stared back, and for the first time she had no words. The hallway outside the courtroom buzzed with hushed voices and echoing footsteps. Dorian sat on a bench with Lily beside him, her head leaning softly against his arm. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. The adrenaline of the hearing had faded, leaving behind a kind of quiet exhaustion that neither coffee nor courage could mend. Across the hall, Mark and Rachel huddled near the vending machines, whispering sharply. Dorian could tell from the way Rachel gestured, sharp, controlled, always with a finger pointed, that their unity was already fraying. You did good in there, Dorian said quietly. Lily looked up at him. Did I say too much? He shook his head. You said exactly what needed to be said. She gave a small nod, but her eyes lingered on Rachel. She always made Mom feel small, even when Mom stood tall. Dorian followed her gaze. She'll never make you feel that way. Not while I'm breathing. Lily smiled faintly. Good. Just then, a woman in a brown blazer approached them with a warm but professional smile. Mr. Halverson, I'm the court-appointed child psychologist. The judge asked me to speak with Lily privately before she rules. Dorian stood, hesitating. Is that necessary? The woman nodded gently. It's standard procedure in contested guardianship. Nothing to be afraid of. Lily just gets a chance to speak in her own words. Lily stood before he could object. It's okay, Dad. I can do this. Dorian watched her walk away, her back straight, her steps confident. Eleanor had raised a warrior. Minutes passed like hours. Dorian remained seated, staring down the hallway, thoughts spinning. What if they twisted her words? What if Rachel said something behind their backs? What if... Penny, for your thoughts? He looked up. Margaret, Elena's mother, stood in front of him, her expression softened from their last meeting. What are you doing here? He asked, rising. I heard about the hearing, she said. I came to speak with the judge. He blinked. On whose behalf? Margaret drew a deep breath. On yours. Dorian stared. Why? Because I've read all the letters, the diary. I know what Elena truly wanted. Her voice wavered. And I know how wrong I was to ever doubt you. He was stunned silent. Margaret stepped closer. If you want me to testify, I will. About Rachel. About the pressure we put on Elena. About how scared she was of losing everything. Dorian nodded slowly. Thank you. She gave a tight, emotional smile. I failed my daughter. I won't fail her daughter too. Just then, Lily returned, the psychologist walking beside her. She's honest and smart, the woman said. I've got what I need. The judge re-entered the courtroom a few minutes later. Everyone stood. Her gavel struck once. I have reached a temporary ruling regarding the guardianship of Lily Marlowe. Dorian's heart stopped. The judge looked down at Lily. In accordance with the mother's written wishes, the submitted documentation and the child's own request, guardianship is hereby granted to Mr. Dorian Halverson. Gasps rippled through the courtroom, but then the judge continued. However, Ms. Rachel Marlowe has filed a counter-motion to present new evidence. Dorian's blood ran cold. Evidence, she said, that may challenge Mr. Halverson's paternity. Dorian's mind went blank. The words hung in the air like fog, dense, cold, and impossible to see through. Challenge his paternity? He turned toward Rachel slowly, and there it was. A faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth, not joy, but satisfaction, calculated and cruel. The judge adjusted her glasses. Ms. Marlowe, please approach with your legal counsel. Rachel and her attorney stepped forward, a sealed manila envelope in hand. The judge accepted it, inspected the seal, and passed it to the clerk. Rachel's voice rang out, confident. Your Honor, within that envelope is a DNA test, One conducted unofficially before Mr. Halverson ever met Lily. It was arranged by Elena through a private lab, and it names another possible father. A murmur spread across the room like wildfire. Lily turned to Dorian, confused. What does that mean? Dorian shook his head. It means they're desperate. The judge raised her hand. Silence. I will determine the admissibility of this evidence. Rachel continued, voice cool and polished. This isn't about tearing Lily away from a father figure. This is about the truth, the biological truth. Something Elena herself questioned, privately. I believe this court has a right to know the full picture before granting permanent guardianship. Dorian's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we were never informed of this document. We have serious concerns about its authenticity and chain of custody. I will review it in chambers, the judge said. Court is adjourned for today. A new session will be scheduled within 48 hours. Gavel down, chaos up. As the judge exited, Dorian turned toward Rachel. You're lying. Rachel looked him square in the eye. I'm protecting Lily. From you. Dorian stepped forward, his voice low and controlled. No. You're trying to rewrite the one part of Elena's story that you never controlled. Her heart. Rachel's expression cracked, just slightly, but Mark stepped between them. Back off, Dorian. You knew too, didn't you? Dorian said, that she loved me, that this was never supposed to be your fight. Mark didn't answer. His silence was all the confirmation Dorian needed. Lily tugged at Dorian's sleeve. If she's right, does that mean you're not really my dad? He knelt in front of her, eye level. Lily, listen to me, DNA or not. I am here. I love you. I'm not walking away. She searched his face. Even if I'm not yours. He touched her cheek, heart breaking. Especially then. Margaret approached, pale. That test, it was never supposed to exist. Elena never told me. She questioned. She didn't, Dorian interrupted. This is manipulation, nothing more. Lily looked down at the floor, quiet. But when she looked up, her voice was strong. I don't care what the test says. Rachel's jaw dropped. She chose him, Lily said. So do I. But as they walked out of the courtroom into a sea of reporters, a courier appeared with a new envelope, addressed to Dorian from the private lab in question. He opened it right there on the courthouse steps, and inside was a second test. One Elena had submitted herself, with results, and a name, but not the one Dorian expected. Dorian unfolded the paper with shaking hands, the courthouse noise fading into a dull hum. He stared at the test results, his breath caught in his throat. It was official, stamped, verified, sealed. The biological father's name printed in black ink, Julian Ward. For a moment, the world tilted. Not Mark, not some mystery. Julian, the man who had come to his office with the diary, who'd claimed to be Elena's friend, the one who had spoken kindly with reverence, and now it made sense. Lily peered at the paper. Who's that? Dorian knelt slowly, voice trembling. Julian, is the man your mother named as your biological father in this test? Lily blinked. But you're my dad. He closed his eyes, pain cracking across his face. I thought I was. I wanted to be. I still want to be. But this test... Lily stepped back. Her lips parted, but no words came. The crowd around them grew louder, flashing cameras blinding. Rachel moved in like a hawk. Well, I suppose this settles it. No, Dorian growled. It doesn't settle anything. He turned to his lawyer. Is this admissible? The lawyer nodded grimly. Yes. But it also means the court will want to speak with Mr. Ward now. Lily clutched the locket around her neck. She said, I should decide. Dorian took her hand. And that hasn't changed. But we have to tell the court. We have to be honest. Rachel crossed her arms. Honest? After everything you've done to rewrite this girl's history? Don't, Margaret snapped, stepping forward. Don't you dare twist this. Rachel flinched. Mother, you never understood Elena, Margaret said, her voice raw. And now you're trying to rewrite her daughter too. Lily looked at Dorian. Do you still want me even now? He didn't hesitate. Yes, I don't care what this says. I love you, Lily. I love you because of who you are, not where you came from. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Then a deep voice cut through the crowd. I didn't know, Julian said. All heads turned. He stood at the edge of the steps, eyes wide, lips pale. I swear to God, I didn't know she submitted that test. Dorian stepped forward, fists clenched. You came to my office and never said a word. Because I didn't know, Julian insisted. Elena never told me she believed. She didn't, Margaret interjected. That test was a moment of fear, not truth. The crowd grew chaotic again, the sound of reporters shouting questions rising. Lily stood still in the center of it all, staring at the paper in Dorian's hand. I don't care who made me, she said quietly. I care who stayed. And she turned to Dorian, stepping into his arms. Behind them, the courthouse doors opened again. The judge's clerk approached with a message. There's been a new development in the case. The judge has reopened the hearing. Dorian looked at Lily. We go back in. She nodded, eyes steady. But in the distance, someone else watched from the crowd. A woman, and in her hand, a photo of Elena, Julian, and Dorian, together. The woman stepped forward slowly, clutching the photograph as if it were made of glass. The crowd parted for her, sensing something in her presence that went beyond curiosity. She wore a faded green coat and had lines around her eyes that spoke of years lived carefully, as if life had offered her too many sharp edges. Her gaze never wavered from Dorian as she approached. Lily turned, sensing the shift. Who is she? Dorian didn't know, not yet. But something about the way the woman looked at him made the back of his neck prickle. The judge's clerk hesitated as the woman reached the steps. Ma'am, this is an active court proceeding. I know, she said softly, but what I have changes everything. I need to speak with the judge. Rachel laughed bitterly. And who exactly are you? The woman turned her head, cool and clear. My name is Angela Cross. I was Elena's best friend. And I have proof that everyone's been reading this story the wrong way. She held up the photo. The judge, returning from chambers, paused mid-step as the courtroom doors swung open again. The image was handed directly to her by the clerk. Silence fell as she examined it. 3 people in the photo, Eleanor, Julian, and Dorian. But the timestamp, digital, in the corner, revealed something impossible. April 1st, 2014. Weeks after Eleanor had supposedly disappeared from Dorian's life. Weeks after the day she said goodbye. Dorian's heart began to race. Angela looked directly at the judge. There was no secret, no betrayal. Eleanor wasn't hiding her daughter from anyone. She was choosing between 2 men she cared for in very different ways, and she hoped the truth would surface when Lily was ready. The judge narrowed her eyes. Go on. Angela pulled out another envelope. Elena gave me this before she died. A letter, to be opened only if the truth got twisted. Rachel hissed. This is absurd. None of this is... The judge raised a hand. Silence, Miss Marlowe. Angela handed over the letter. She wanted Lily to decide, but she also wanted you to know the DNA test she submitted, it wasn't about Julian. It was about protecting Lily from Rachel. Gasps echoed through the room. She knew Rachel would fight dirty if anything happened to her, so she created a backup, a red herring, a distraction. She told me to keep this letter safe. And now I'm keeping my promise. The judge broke the seal, her eyes scanning quickly. Dorian's palms were sweating. Lily clung to his side. After a long pause, the judge looked up. In this letter, Elena confirms that Dorian Halverson is the father. She states clearly that the earlier DNA test was altered intentionally to create confusion, out of fear, out of desperation. She apologizes and asks that the court honor her daughter's voice above all. Rachel went pale. Julian sat down slowly, stunned. Dorian turned to Lilian, who was already smiling. I knew it, she whispered. But then Angela spoke again. There's one more thing. Everyone turned, She also left behind another secret. Angela's voice cracked. She wasn't just afraid of Rachel. She was afraid of why Rachel was so determined to keep Lily away from Dorian. Lily's hand tightened around his, and Angela whispered, because Rachel wasn't just Elena's sister. She was in love with Dorian too. The courtroom erupted into stunned murmurs, heads turning sharply toward Rachel. Her posture stiffened instantly, her face drained of color, but quickly masked in that familiar shield of icy composure. Only her eyes betrayed her, wide, flickering with rage, fear, and something else beneath it all. Something raw. The judge held up a hand. Order. Silence. Angela stepped forward again. I didn't want to share this. God knows I didn't. But Elena made me promise that if Rachel tried to take Lily from Dorian, the full truth had to come out. She wrote everything down. The memories, the letters, even the night it all changed. Rachel's voice sliced through the air, sharp and defensive. You're making things up. This is personal slander. Angela turned to her. You told Elena the night she found out she was pregnant. You said you'd fix it. That Dorian was never meant to be a father. That you could be enough for him if she just stepped aside. Rachel's mouth opened, then closed again. No denial came. Angela's voice trembled now, not with fear, but the weight of long-carried grief. You manipulated her. You made her feel like a burden. You used her fear to push her out of his life. And when she wouldn't let go of Lily, you turned cold. You said the child would ruin everything. The judge looked down at Elena's letter again, flipping through pages no one else could see. Her expression grew more severe with each passing second. Lily leaned into Dorian. Is it true? He hesitated, looking into her eyes. I never knew. I never saw Rachel that way. Not once. Angela nodded. That's why she hated you, Lily. Not because of anything you did, but because you were the life Elena built with the man she never could have. Rachel's voice cracked. She chose me over him. No, Angela said gently. She chose her daughter over both of you. The judge sat forward, addressing the entire courtroom. I've seen enough. The room fell deathly silent. I've read the diary. I've reviewed the letters. I've examined the false test and Elena's final confession. And what I see is a woman who feared losing her daughter to people who loved her conditionally, people who saw her as leverage, strategy, legacy. She turned to Dorian. And I see a man who was once blind, yes, but who now stands before this court with nothing but honesty, pain, and commitment. Then she looked at Lily. You were right, child. The voice that matters most in this room is yours. Lily swallowed hard and stepped forward again. I choose him, she said clearly. Not because of the test, not because of a judge, but because he's my dad. Tears filled Dorian's eyes. And if my mom made mistakes, Lily continued, it's okay. She still gave me the right to find the truth. The judge nodded once. Then I will honor Elena's final wish. She raised the gavel. Full guardianship is hereby granted to Mr. Dorian Halverson. But before the gavel could fall, Rachel lunged forward. She lied to you all. Security moved instantly. Rachel was restrained as she screamed toward the bench. She lied, he doesn't deserve her. I loved him first. And with that, the courtroom descended into chaos. Security officers restrained Rachel quickly, her voice breaking into sobs as she struggled against their hold. The courtroom stood in stunned silence, every eye watching as years of repression and obsession finally surfaced like a violent wave. The judge remained still, gavel raised but not yet dropped, her eyes fixed on the shattered figure of the woman who had once claimed to be the moral protector of a child she never truly saw. I did everything for her, Rachel cried. I cleaned up after Elena's mistakes. I held the family together. I should have been enough. Angela turned her face away, tears running silently down her cheeks. Dorian stood, gently guiding Lily behind him, as if to shield her not just from danger, but from a bitter, ancient grief. You used love like a weapon, he said quietly to Rachel, and you lost, not because you weren't enough, but because you never let her be. Rachel finally went still, sagging in the arms of the officers. The judge exhaled, her voice firm again. "Remove Ms. Marlowe from the courtroom. She will be barred from further guardianship proceedings pending psychological evaluation." As Rachel was led away, the gavel finally fell. Full and permanent guardianship is awarded to Mr. Dorian Halverson. Court is adjourned. The sound echoed like the final note of a symphony long overdue. Lily turned to Dorian, her eyes wide and wet, but her shoulders lighter. "It's over?" He knelt, taking her face in his hands. "No, it's just beginning. But the part where we had to fight to find each other, that's over." Margaret approached, her face unreadable. "I never imagined it would come to this." Dorian stood slowly. "You should have trusted her." "I should have trusted you," she replied, and reached out to take Lily's hand. "I'm sorry, sweetheart." Lily nodded, her voice quiet. "I know." Angela stepped forward and placed one final envelope in Dorian's hands. "The last thing Elena wrote. She asked me not to open it, said it was for you after everything." He accepted it with reverence. The letter was sealed in deep blue wax. His name was written in gold ink, Dorian Halverson. That night, back at the penthouse, Lily fell asleep with her head on his shoulder, clutching the locket. Dorian sat alone at the kitchen table, the city lights glowing beneath him. He broke the seal. "My love, if you're reading this, then the storm has passed. And you're still standing. That means Lily is safe. That means you found her or she found you, and either way the universe is no longer off balance. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, for the silence, for the moments I ran instead of reaching out. But I believe in your heart, I always did. You were never perfect, but you were mine. And in the end, that's what I gave to her. Not just a name, but a piece of you. Raise her in truth. Let her be wild. Let her be still. Let her be more than both of us. And never forget, she was always waiting for you. Love, Elena." Dorian folded the letter, eyes burning. Then Lily stirred, mumbling in her sleep. "Dad, I'm here," he whispered, and this time he meant it. Morning came quietly, golden light spilling into the penthouse like a silent blessing. Dorian stood by the window, watching the city stir beneath a sky washed clean by yesterday's storm, both literal and emotional. He held his coffee in one hand, Eleanor's final letter in the other, reading it for the third time. Every word cut and healed all at once. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Lily, wrapped in a blanket, her curls tangled from sleep, rubbed her eyes. "You're up early." He turned and smiled. "Didn't sleep much." She came to his side and looked out the window. "Is she really gone?" Dorian nodded slowly. "Yeah, in the way people go when they've told their whole story." Lily leaned into him. "But we still have her words. And each other," he added. They stood in silence, letting the warmth of the new day melt what remained of the long night. Later, they walked through Eleanor's old apartment. Margaret had met them at the door with quiet reverence. "It's still full of her," she said. "She never threw anything away." They moved from room to room, photos, books, baby clothes folded in boxes, old receipts, journals. Lily found a sketch Eleanor had drawn of Dorian once, his face only half finished, the other side blank as if she'd left it open for change. Lily placed it gently in her backpack. "This one's mine." In the bedroom, Dorian found an old answering machine. Margaret said she hadn't played the messages in years. He pressed the button. The voice that played was his own, younger, sharper, desperate. "Eleanor, I know you're there. Just tell me what's going on. You said you needed space, but it's been weeks. Please call me." Lily's eyes flicked to him. "I don't remember leaving that," he said. "She saved it anyway," Margaret whispered. In the final drawer of Elena's desk, they found a small locked box. Margaret handed over the key without hesitation. Inside, a flash drive. Lily held it up. "Should we see what's on it?" Back at the penthouse, they opened the files. Videos, dozens of them. Eleanor, recording messages for Lily as she grew. Birthday wishes, life advice, lullabies. One file was marked simply, "For both of you." Dorian clicked it open. Eleanor's face appeared, smiling, eyes soft. "If you're seeing this, then I'm gone. And you're together, which means something went right, despite all the things that went wrong." She laughed gently, brushing her hair back. "Dorian, you always loved from behind a wall, but if Lily is beside you now, then I know you tore it down. Lily, baby, he wasn't there because I pushed him away. Not because he didn't care, he was just lost, we all were." She looked straight into the camera. "So now you two get to be found, together, and that's all I ever wanted." Dorian reached for Lily's hand, tears running freely. "I miss her," she whispered. "So do I," he said. "But she left you with more than love." Lily looked up. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "She left you with a future." 1 year later, the wind was softer this spring. The sky above Central Park was an endless stretch of blue, and beneath it, laughter floated from a crowd gathered under white tents and streamers. A large banner rippled overhead, the Elena Marlowe Foundation for Mothers and Daughters Finding Their Way. On a small stage, Dorian adjusted the mic, his tie slightly loosened, a warmth in his eyes that hadn't existed before. Beside him stood Lily, now 11, taller, more confident, wearing a necklace with her mother's locket and a smile that reminded everyone of Elena. Dorian cleared his throat, glancing down at his note cards, then folded them and tucked them away. "I was supposed to give a speech," he began, his voice calm but weighted with emotion. "But the truth is, everything I could say is already standing beside me." He looked down at Lily. "I didn't know I had a daughter until a rainy afternoon turned into the beginning of everything. And in that moment, when a 10-year-old handed me a diary instead of a business card, my entire life changed." The audience chuckled gently. "I had to unlearn a lot of things to become her father, like how to listen, how to slow down, how to forgive myself." Lily squeezed his hand, nodding at him to keep going. This foundation was built in memory of a woman who carried too many burdens alone. Eleanor Marlowe was brilliant, complicated, stubborn, and full of love she didn't always know how to share. But she gave me the greatest gift a person can be given, the chance to start over. He paused. "So this is for every mother who felt like she had to run, and for every daughter still waiting to be seen. May this place, this community, this legacy, remind them that it's never too late to come home." Applause swelled. Later, as the crowd wandered through exhibits and photo displays, Lily pulled Dorian aside and pointed to a small sculpture unveiled near the garden. 2 figures, one adult, one child, hand in hand, standing in front of an open door. "It's her," Lily whispered. "She's walking us back in." Dorian nodded. "She always was." Margaret approached, holding a box. "We found something else. In her things. It's unfinished." Inside was a manuscript, a novel, Eleanor's, the title, The Weight of Rain. Dorian held it as if it were glass. "She wanted to publish it," Margaret said, "but she didn't think anyone would care." "They will," Dorian said. "They will now." As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the grass, Lily ran ahead, laughing with new friends, free, whole, alive. Angela joined Dorian, watching the children. "She's everything Elena hoped she'd be," she said. "She's more," Dorian replied. "She's everything we didn't know we needed." Angela handed him an envelope. "The last one, I swear." He opened it. Inside, a photograph. Eleanor smiling, holding Lily, and behind them, Dorian, arms around both, unaware the camera had caught them. And on the back, Elena's handwriting, "You never missed her, Dorian. You were just waiting to remember." The wind carried her voice soft as memory, and this time he didn't cry. He simply smiled.